Hi, this is Michelle Leahy with Reedy Press. Today I'm joined by Bill Hart. Bill is the author of Historic Missouri Roadsides first edition and now second edition. Thank you so much for joining me today, Bill.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me.
I love your book, but talk to me about how did you choose the criteria for the road trips that you picked for the book?
That I picked for the book. One was definitely interesting places along a contiguous route. So that was a prime consideration. Interesting towns along the way was a second sort of criteria. And probably the biggest overarching one was the necessity that I felt to keep it all small town. In the whole book of all of the 5 road trips, I think you have to be on an interstate highway for about 2 miles.
Wow.
And that's out of about 1,000 miles on all of these road trips. And so I wanted to find 2-lane highways, obviously, that lead to interesting small towns as well as scenic views along the way.
Yeah, and you tell us all of the places to eat, sleep, and shop along the way, right?
I do. In my work with the Missouri Alliance for Historic Preservation, I've been at Missouri Preservation for about 13 years now. One thing that I've noticed universally about small town Missouri is that it's emptying out. There's a loss of population for a number of reasons: factory farms, the loss of factory jobs, any number of influences, the loss of rail traffic or river traffic. But at the same time, I've also noticed that if a town can sort of reinvent itself and promote itself using its history, playing upon its history, that it benefits from what I call cultural heritage tourism. So this is sort of like the heritage tourism of Podunk, if you will, but it lists only places to stay, visit, shop, and the like, but it only lists Missouri-owned businesses. So it helps to restore that economy back to small towns that is so missing these days because so many small town stores have been replaced by the big box. And so it's intended to help bolster that tourism in Missouri and to help people really realize what a really beautiful place and a real rich history is right in our backyard.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Talk to me about what are some of the strange places, or what's the strangest place that you featured?
I always I love giving presentations about my book, and certainly anybody seeing this, please reach out to me if you're interested in a travelogue, because I am all about coming and talking to you about them. But I always talk about the strange places, the strange place names that I see in Missouri. I've been to Cooter and Lupus. I thought it was going to hurt just being in Lupus. I've been to Peculiar, where they say the odds are with you instead of against you. I've also been to Tightwad, and I've heard that lots of Missouri citizens have probably never been to Tightwad, but have opened bank accounts there simply so that their checking account can say Bank of Tightwad. So get the message. But I constantly, from these travelogues that I was talking about, I constantly get new stories about places. There was one town in the entire book, probably out of about 300 communities, that I could find no history on, no information about it. And actually, I was working on a project again with somebody at work, assessing the historic integrity and the possible listing for the National Register on their property. Well, I looked back, it was Foley, Missouri. And so I looked back in their deed. They had the original deed from the 1840s to their property, and there was the largest landowner in Lincoln County, Mr. William Foley. So I figured out that's where the town name came from. But I also hear fun stories from people who may have grown up in or near one of these small towns. on my road trip called the River Road. It basically shadows Missouri Highway 79 from St. Charles County up to nearly the Iowa border along Missouri Highway 79 along the river. And there's a little town called Winfield. And in the book, there's a picture of a little commercial building. It's a central storefront and with two little flanking wings on it. And a woman came up to me after the presentation and she said, I particularly liked that picture of that storefront because that was my grandmother's store. She said there was a grocery next to it and she had dry goods mostly at her store. But she had a dog that was quite talented and quite cunning. And she used to tell people when they came into the store that if they gave her dog a nickel, it would go over to the store and buy some dog food. So people would lay down their nickel. The dog would pick up the nickel, take it next door to the grocery store, go to the shelf, get his can of dog food, and be on his way back to the dry goods store.
Oh my goodness.
So always lots of fun little anecdotes from people wherever I go. Another funny place was I was in Mound City, which is sort of duck hunting territory in Missouri. And I got to the hotel. We had gone there to see the eclipse last August. And when we got there, right off the parking lot was the biggest, on a huge pole, was the biggest duck whirligig that I've ever seen in my life. And its wings were moving. And so we went to check into the motel, and outside of the motel was a sign near the trash can that said, "Visitors, please no duck feathers or carcasses in the motel trash cans." To give you an idea of who their heritage tourists are.
Wow. I don't know if I want to stay at that motel.
It was a very reputable and a very clean motel for obvious reasons, I guess.
I love it. Bill, what do you hope that your book tells readers about Missouri roadsides?
Well, again, I think the overarching principle and the overarching message that I want people to take from this book is that there is a very rich small town history in Missouri. It is beautiful in every corner, from north, south, east, and west. There are beautiful landscapes to discover, and there's a variety of very fun, there's great architecture, there are fun historical places to visit, and at the same time that we're visiting, we can also bolster the tourism of Missouri and help our neighbors out. I think that's really, in the age of the big box store, I think, for ease of explanation, the Waltons already have enough money. It's our neighbors who need our money and they need our support. And those are the people that I try to highlight in this book of historic tourism offerings.
I love that you did that. And I mean, we need it more so, or now more so than ever.
Absolutely. And, after the age of COVID-19, we're going to even be reeling more from loss of income. And this will help us help our neighbors.
Well, and I think your book is so great when this lifts, and we could take the road trip now, but we couldn't stop at the places. But
many of the places, well, you can't stop at the restaurants and the like. Some of them offer carryout, and on my website, I actually in some of the destinations in the book, I do point out who is offering carryout in the time of COVID-19, so that you can still drive and you can still stop for a bite along the way. Some of the state parks are closed, but almost all of the state conservation areas are open to the public and are currently open during COVID-19. So it's a great chance to see a lot of the beautiful landscapes that Missouri has to offer, and wildlife and plant life, especially during the spring. It's a beautiful time to be out there.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm super excited. I think that I'm going to put my crew in the van and we're going to hit the road this weekend.
Please do.
Bill, where can people go to connect with you or get a copy of the book?
You can buy my book. I'll send you an autographed copy, postage paid and sales tax paid, at Missouri, historicmissouriroadsides.com. On the left-hand side, you'll see a purchase tab. You can pay there, and by return mail, within about 24 hours, I can get you your book back in the mail to you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Bill, thank you so much for writing such a cool book about historic Missouri roadsides. I'm super excited, and thank you for the idea of, hitting the road now. So
Thank you for helping me promote it. Really, now is a great time. You can get in your car and be safe and enjoy some of the beautiful attractions that Missouri has to offer.
I agree. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.